Alright, we've talked about the endocrine system, which is the glands that don't have ducts that release their hormones directly into the bloodstream. The thyroid, the pituitary gland is the master gland, has lots of different hormones, and it sends messages or hormones to other glands to get them started or give them directions. In the pituitary gland itself is somatotropin or growth hormone, and we talked about diseases that are affected with too much growth hormone and not enough growth hormone in the last lesson. Today we're going to talk about the thyroid gland and the parathyroid. And the thyroid gland and the parathyroid are both stimulated or sent messages from the pituitary. There's the thyroid stimulating gland, or thyrotropin, which stimulates growth and secretion of the thyroid hormone. And that's absolutely needed because our thyroid gland regulates our body metabolism. Too much of it, we're too hyper and too active. Too little of it, and it's a lot of fatigue and weight gain and slow pulse, slow everything. And the thyroid gland also controls the level of calcium in the blood. So thyroid gland is important. It's located in the neck on either side of the Adam's apple, and it's connected by a layer of tissue called an isthmus, and there's two lobes, one on each side of the neck. The thyroid gland does require iodine from food intake in order for the hormones that it produces to be produced correctly and to be metabolized. So to produce its hormones, it does require iodine. You can get it from fish, certain other foods, but we in America, because we don't eat enough fish and that kind of thing, will add iodine to our salt. So most people buy iodized salt. Now there's two hormones released by the thyroid gland. There's the thyroxine, which increases the metabolic rate, stimulates physical and emotional growth, regulates metabolism of our food, and then thyrocalcitonin, which accelerates absorption of the calcium by the bones and lowers our blood calcium level, which is important. Now, what if the thyroid gland isn't working correctly, or we don't have enough iodine, or there's a tumor, or something's wrong? Alright, the first disease we're going to talk about is goiter. It's an enlargement of the thyroid gland, and it might be caused by a hyperactive thyroid, or from iodine deficiency, or from the pituitary gland over-secreting that thyroid stimulating hormone, or it could be from a tumor. The symptoms are enlargement of the thyroid, dysphagia, which is difficulty swallowing, a cough or choking sensation. And if that person has a goiter, then treatment is directed to getting rid of the cause. So if the cause is an iodine deficiency, then we'll give iodine. And if it's because it's a large tumor, then they'll do surgery. The next one is hyperthyroidism, or too much activity of the thyroid gland. So it causes an increased production of the thyroid hormones and an increase in the metabolic rate. So the person will be extremely nervous, have tremors, irritability, rapid pulse, hypertension, excessive perspiration, excessive thirst, excessive appetite, extreme weight loss. And the treatment is to use radiation to destroy part of the thyroid, or you could surgically remove the thyroid with a thyroidectomy. However, anytime you remove the thyroid, then thyroid hormones are going to need to be given for the lifetime of that person. If there is an extreme form of hyperthyroidism, it's called Graves' disease, and that's more common in women than men. And the symptoms are all the symptoms of hyperthyroidism, plus a strained or tense facial expression, and more characteristically something called exophthalmia, which is protruding eyeballs. They'll look bug-eyed. Treatment of this is medication to inhibit that synthesis of thyroxine. It could be radioactive iodine to destroy the thyroid tissue, or removal of the thyroid, thyroidectomy. And again, they need thyroid hormones to be given. The last one is the opposite of the hyper. It's hypothyroidism, or not enough, in underactivity. And there's two forms of it. One develops in infancy or early childhood, and it's called cretinism. And if diagnosed early enough, the child could be given oral thyroid hormone to minimize any mental or physical damage. But if they have this, not enough thyroid hormone, then they're not going to have the metabolism to be correct. So there'll be a lack of mental and physical growth, and so they'll be abnormally dwarfed in stature or have mental retardation. The second one occurs in later childhood or adulthood, called myxedema, M-Y-X-E-D-E-M-A, and some of the symptoms will be slow mental function, fatigue, weakness, weight gain, puffy eyes, slow pulse, coarse dry skin. And to treat it, then they need oral thyroid hormone to restore normal metabolism. It could be because there's an iron deficiency or a tumor. So iodized salt could be added to the diet, or some type of iodine. The next one is parathyroid. Parathyroid glands are 4 small glands that are behind and attached to the thyroid gland. So again, they're in the neck, but they're behind the thyroid. The hormone parathyroid regulates the amount of calcium in the blood, and it's important to keep the calcium level in our blood stable, because that affects the heart. We need the balance and the level of circulating calcium, because although most of the body's calcium is in the bones, the calcium that circulates in the blood is important. It's important for blood clotting, for the tone of the heart muscle, for muscle contraction. And because there's a constant exchange of calcium and phosphate between the bones and the blood, then that parathyroid hormone is really important in maintaining that proper level of circulating calcium. Now, there could be 2 diseases: hyper, too much, or hypo, too little. So oversecretion or undersecretion. Hyperparathyroidism, overproduction of that parathormone. So there'll be an increased calcium in the blood, and then that can lead to kidney stones, renal calculi, lethargy, calcium deposits on the walls of the blood vessels and organs, which would not be good. And because the calcium is drawn from the bones, then the bones can become weak and deformed and likely to fracture. Now, often this is caused by a tumor, and if you remove the tumor, then the parathyroid function returns to normal. Hypoparathyroidism, or underactivity of the parathyroid, causes a low level of calcium in the blood. And it could be because your parathyroid has been removed or injured. And symptoms of that are going to be muscle contractions, hyper-irritability of the nervous system, twitching, and if that involves your larynx or your respiratory muscles, you could end up dying because those are being irritated. This condition is very easily treated with supplements of calcium and vitamin D. Vitamin D increases the absorption of calcium from the digestive tract. Or you could give them oral parathormone, the parathormone hormone.